"You are nothing more than an extra in this family's success story, Arthur. Clean that cheap suit and try not to embarrass your brother in front of the real guests." Brenda, the bride, snapped while adjusting the pearls on her neck with a scornful smile. Arthur Carter remained silent, feeling the weight of the contempt that had already become routine. His younger brother, Leo, simply looked away, ignoring the presence of the man who, for years, had worked 2 jobs to pay for his business school. There, in the sumptuous ballroom of the Grand Majestic Hotel, Arthur was treated like a geographical mistake, a nuisance amid the glow of crystal chandeliers and the clinking of champagne glasses. Arthur had always been the ordinary son. While the Carter family believed he could barely afford the rent of a studio on the outskirts, reality was a secret kept under lock and key. He was not just a simple man, he was the architect of an empire. Still, he preferred to watch the masks fall before revealing his own face. There is something inevitable about justice, a silent force that moves behind the scenes of human arrogance, and Arthur knew that night would not be just an engagement, but a spiritual and financial reckoning no one there could foresee. As the party reached its peak, a silent incident occurred at the back of the hall. One of the waiters, visibly nervous, approached Arthur and discreetly handed him an envelope. No one noticed. The elite present were far too busy flattering Brenda's family, the self-proclaimed magnates of the real estate sector. But when Arthur opened the paper, he saw the transfer records. The cost of his brother's engagement was being paid with money diverted from a pension fund. Before we continue with this escalation of betrayal, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the outcome of this twist. Leave your like and comment which city you are watching from so we can feel the strength of this community. Arthur felt as if his conscience were trapped in a lucid nightmare. He heard everything. From a dark corner, he caught Brenda's muffled laughter as she spoke with her parents in the side corridor. "The plan is working," she whispered. "As soon as the civil union contract is signed, the Carters will be tied to our debts. That idiot Leo has no idea that our family's wealth is just a paper facade." The cruelty was palpable. Arthur had invested love and protection in his brother, only to see him served like a lamb at a banquet of swindlers. He tried to react. He walked toward Leo, seeking to warn him, but was stopped by 2 security guards hired by the bride's family. The sense of claustrophobia was real. He was in his own hotel, surrounded by his own employees who did not recognize him because of his strategic anonymity, being prevented from saving his own blood. Brenda's betrayal was not only financial, it was a violation of his family's dignity. Arthur took a deep breath, eyes fixed on the gold watch hidden beneath the sleeve of his worn suit. The promise of truth burned in his chest. He was no longer the underestimated brother. He was the judge of that farce. Want to know what happened when the man everyone humiliated finally decided to take his place at the head of the table? The physical turning point became visible when Arthur, instead of withdrawing as ordered, calmly walked to the main stage where the microphone awaited the couple's toast. His posture changed, his shoulders straightened, and his vacant gaze gave way to an icy authority that made the ballroom fall silent by pure instinct. The awakening began with a powerful micro-action. He pulled a golden keycard from his pocket, the master pass that only the owner of the Majestic Group possessed, and placed it on the podium. "The party is over before it even began," he said, his first words echoing with the weight of thunder on a sunny day. The silence that followed Arthur's sentence was cutting, broken only by the metallic sound of the keycard striking the metal of the podium. Brenda, who seconds earlier had paraded her arrogance among crystal glasses, froze in the middle of the ballroom. The antagonist's entrance was marked by dramatic irony. She let out a forced laugh, trying to maintain the mask of superiority before the influential guests. "Arthur, darling, have you had too much to drink? Get off the stage before security throws you out into the street like the trash you are," she hissed, approaching with eyes sparking with suppressed hatred. She still believed she had control, unaware that the ground beneath her feet was already collapsing. The direct confrontation was inevitable. Arthur did not move an inch. He adjusted the microphone and stared straight at Brenda, ignoring the shocked murmurs of the Carter family. "I heard everything, Brenda. Every word about the diverted pension fund. Every laugh about how my brother is a useful idiot for your family's fraud scheme," he revealed, his calm voice contrasting with the chaos beginning to settle over the room. Brenda's face turned pale instantly. The mask fell, revealing an expression of pure panic. The silence that followed was sepulchral, broken only by the dry sound of a stammered apology she tried to form, but the words died in her throat. She tried to justify herself, claiming he was crazy, but Arthur did not yield. He simply pointed to the giant screen behind him. The fall began when the ballroom lights dimmed and the screen displayed confidential documents, audits, bank statements, and surveillance photos showing Brenda's wealthy parents in meetings with known money launderers. The external intervention did not take long. The double doors of the main hall burst open and agents from the Financial Crimes Unit, led by Inspector Miller, entered the room. "Brenda Miller and family, you are under investigation for international fraud and money laundering," the authority announced as the shine of handcuffs outshone the hotel chandeliers. The dream engagement turned into a crime scene in seconds. Leo, Arthur's brother, fell to his knees, destroyed by the revelation of the betrayal of the woman he loved. It was at that moment that the hotel's general manager, Mr. Henderson, rushed to the stage, bowing deeply before Arthur. "Mr. Carter, forgive the disturbance. We did not know the owner would be present in person today. How would you like us to proceed with the intruders?" Henderson asked, audible to everyone present. The shock was collective. Arthur's family, who had always called him a failure, looked at him as if seeing a ghost. He was not the dead weight, he was the owner of all of it. The realistic epilogue of that night brought no immediate celebration, but a necessary process of healing. As the police led the swindlers away, Arthur stepped down from the stage and walked toward his brother, extending his hand not as a millionaire, but as the protector he had always been. The recovery would be long. The legal case against the Millers would be exhausting, but the hierarchy of power had been restored by the truth. The theme of that night remained engraved in the hearts of those who stayed. True wealth is not in what you display, but in the integrity you maintain when no one is watching. Justice may be delayed, but for those who have faith and patience, it always finds its way home. The dust from the arrest of Brenda and her family had barely settled when the grand majestic ballroom sank into a kind of silence that hurts the ears. The guests, the elite who minutes earlier ignored Arthur as if he were part of the furniture, now stared at him with a mixture of terror and reverence. Leo, still on the floor, looked at his brother's hands, the same hands he used to criticize for being dirty with manual labor, and finally saw the weight of the signet ring Arthur wore, the symbol of the holding company that controlled half of the city's developments. The awareness of family betrayal began to weigh more than the handcuffs on Brenda's wrists. You own all of this?" The voice of their mother, Martha Carter, broke the trance. She approached hesitantly, greed fighting against shame on her face. "Arthur, my son, why didn't you tell us? We could have helped. We could have avoided this scandal." The irony of her words did not go unnoticed. Arthur simply stepped back, keeping a safe distance, not out of hatred, but out of preservation. "Helped, Mother? Or would you have tried to spend in one afternoon of frivolities what took me 10 years to build?" he asked, his voice free of resentment, yet heavy with cutting truth. As the agents escorted the swindlers to the police cars, Inspector Miller approached Arthur with a leather folder. "Mr. Carter, the documents you sent us anonymously were the final piece of the puzzle. Without your internal audit of the hotel, they would have drained your brother's accounts and disappeared before dawn." Leo stood up, tears washing away the trail of humiliation on his face. He tried to hug Arthur, but stopped halfway, realizing the abyss he himself had helped dig between them. The escalation of emotional betrayal was now a one-way road to regret. Arthur looked at the manager, Mr. Henderson, and gave a simple order. "Close the doors. The party is over, but the Carter family conversation is just beginning." He walked to a side table, poured himself a glass of water, and sat down, watching his relatives, as a judge watches defendants who already know the sentence. His father, Robert's attempt to react was pathetic. He tried to laugh, trying to turn the humiliation into a family joke. "Come on, Arthur, we knew you had talent. It was all a test, wasn't it?" Arthur's silence was the most deafening answer Robert had ever received in his life. The promise of justice Arthur had carried in his chest throughout the night was now turning into a lesson in dignity. He was not there to gloat, but to rebuild on real foundations. He looked at his brother and said, "I paid your debts today, Leo, but tomorrow, you start in the maintenance department of this hotel. No privileges, no last name. If you want to be a Carter worthy of this empire, you'll have to learn the value of the sweat you once despised." Leo's face showed a flash of shock, followed by painful acceptance. But what happened when the true mind behind Brenda's scheme, someone still in the ballroom, tried to make one last desperate move? The silence that followed Arthur's order was suddenly broken by a slow, sarcastic applause coming from the back of the ballroom. It was Julian, Leo's best man and the Carter family's supposed financial mentor. He walked calmly between the overturned tables, adjusting his bow tie with a chill that froze the room. Brilliant, Arthur, truly brilliant. The owner of the majestic empire hidden under the disguise of a neglected worker. A masterful move, Julian mocked as he approached the stage. But Arthur's gaze did not waver. He had been expecting that move. Brenda's plan was amateur, Julian, but yours was professional. Using the bride as cannon fodder while you siphoned the Carter Holdings assets from the outside. Did you really think I wouldn't monitor my own brother's accounts? The visible physical turning point came when Arthur signaled to Inspector Miller, who was still standing at the doorway. "Julian Banks, you forgot that every transaction made within this hotel passes through my encrypted servers," Arthur stated, stepping down the stage stairs with predatory calm. Julian's awakening was immediate. He tried to run toward the emergency exit, but was intercepted by two elite hotel security guards who now answered only to the command of their true master. The awakening of the truth was a sharp blow. Julian was handcuffed before the incredulous eyes of Robert and Martha, who finally understood they had placed a snake to sleep in their own nest. The final direct confrontation was not with shouting, but with a silence heavy with late apologies. Brenda, as she was escorted out, attempted one last seductive move, looking at Arthur with crocodile tears. "I did it for us, Arthur. I knew who you were. I just wanted to test your loyalty," she lied, desperate. Arthur did not even glance at her. He simply gestured for them to take her away. Brenda's fall was complete. She tried to justify herself until the very last second, but the external intervention of justice was relentless, closing the police van doors over her dreams of illicit grandeur. The realistic epilogue of this journey showed a Carter family fragmented but finally honest. In the months that followed, Leo kept his promise, trading designer suits for the blue maintenance uniform, cleaning the same corridors where he once humiliated his brother. Robert and Martha lost their social status, but gained the chance to meet the son they had ignored for decades. Arthur remained at the top, not out of ego, but competence, transforming the Grand Majestic into a symbol of integrity. The recovery of his peace was his greatest profit. The moral of this story is simple and powerful. Never confuse silence with weakness, nor humility with lack of power. The tree that withstands the weight of the storm is the one that planted its roots in the soil of truth while others only cared about the appearance of their leaves. Divine justice has its own schedule, and it always delivers the crown to those who had the courage to carry the cross in silence. Comment which part of the video you liked the most, and don't forget to reflect on who the people are that truly sustain your life behind the scenes. Until the next twist.